Thanks to the Louisiana Purchase, America nearly doubled its size overnight. But it was not going to work without quality leadership and quick decision making. Join me as we go deeper and discover what exactly led up to the Louisiana Purchase. The year is 1801, and America had been a country for around 20 years at this point. Thomas Jefferson was navigating a quickly evolving political landscape both inside and outside the United States. Thomas Jefferson understood that his presidency was critical to the country's success. During this time, France was making major moves in the New World. France had sent troops to the nearby Saint-Domingue, or modern-day Haiti, which worried America, believing an attack was entirely possible. France had given Spain the Louisiana territories before America's Revolution in hopes that while France was preoccupied with other things, that Spain's presence would ward off any of the colony's attempts to expand in the New World. When Napoleon Bonaparte became France's first emperor, he sought to expand the French Empire in the Western Hemisphere. And this is why Spain began returning French land. The Louisiana territories, or more specifically New Orleans, was critical for American tobacco, cotton, and sugar trade. Spain had let Americans use New Orleans to export their goods. So once America realized that they could lose access to those ports, it worried a lot of Americans, and especially Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson's fear was that Americans would be put out of business and America would be attacked. And from then on, it became his mission to expand American territory and become a major player on the global stage. Soon after being elected, Jefferson selected Robert Livingston as minister to France. And in 1803, Livingston would help broker the deal of the Louisiana Purchase between France and America. But we'll get to that more later on. Spain also was dragging their feet in returning Louisiana, and that helped trust build between France and America. Jefferson was hell-bent on getting America out of any possible war or conflict with France, and Louisiana was seen as a way to do so. That is why he sent a good friend and future president James Monroe to France in 1803. The president hoped for at least a small win, mainly New Orleans, but France was in more of an issue than they let on. Back in 1801, when America had first feared an attack from France, the French had actually begun to take back Saint-Domingue from its African locals. However, 2/3 of the troops that were sent to Saint-Domingue died of yellow fever. You see, Napoleon knew that without Florida, which was never French in the first place, or Saint-Domingue, there was no point in holding the Louisiana territories. Jefferson had been priming Napoleon, and it was about to pay off. As political tensions began rising between France and England, Napoleon was getting ready to pull the trigger. On March 11th, 1803, Napoleon began planning his invasion of England. A month later, on April 11th, 1803, Napoleon's Treasury Minister offered Robert Livingston the Louisiana territories for a whopping $15 million. The deal consisted of lands surrounding New Orleans all the way up into what is now considered Canada. And the Louisiana territories was 828,000 square miles. For reference, before the deal, America was only 865,000 square miles. James Monroe arrived in France but days later. Jefferson had given him only a $10 million budget to purchase New Orleans. But fearful that France would withdraw their offer, and believing that the Americans would easily get on board with their decision, Livingston and Monroe signed for $18 a mile on April 30th. Thankfully, Jefferson agreed and was able to convince the House of Representatives to proceed with the purchase. At this time, there was controversy over whether President Jefferson was overstepping his executive powers detailed in the Constitution. I'm not going to get into that, but if that sounds interesting to you, I highly suggest you research it on your own. Thank you so much for watching this video. Until we ride again, have a good one, folks.